Well, here we are. Final week, final few uploads of 30 in 30. Hello everybody, it is TJ Lee, your Janitor Supremo, the creator of Dusklight Radio, jumping in at the beginning to let you know a little bit about today's production. First and foremost, it is an exclusive once again by the amazing PageTurner. PageTurner was the one behind Demon Circus and Killers for Sale, two of the most successful videos we've done in this experiment, and she has blessed me with another exclusive. And I did all the voices on this one, so I've gone all out for it. However, we need to give some special praise to the editor of this channel, that's John, We Try Horror, who just went all in on getting this ready for me because I'm working on the other videos for this week. So please give him some love in the comments, go and check out his channel. He deserves a lot more subscribers than he currently has. Incredible talent, incredible person. Thank you so much to him for getting this ready so that I could focus on the other uploads this week. We should be uploading Monday through Friday. The weekend will likely be a compilation, a 30 in 30 supercut, as well as a Antlion mega cut, 1 through 10. I'm so excited to put that up. I know people have been really enjoying the series, and I will be doing the next chapter in a couple of weeks' time. It's going to be a little bit touch and go on the channel through the month of February as I'm moving, hooray. But don't worry, I am pretty committed to giving you regular daily uploads, barring weekends, for the foreseeable future, because it's been such a success and I have been overwhelmed by the kindness and the community spirit you've all driven. Please check out the Discord if you want to get involved a little bit more. Of course, there's a Patreon too. That's all I'm going to say for now. Thank you so much and enjoy today's exclusive story, The Infinity Game. Has anyone ever played the Infinity Game? The one with mirrors? At some point, everyone sees the infinite hallway created by two mirrors facing together. People usually just think it's a cool visual effect, but I was raised by witches. Not Halloween witches. I'm talking about the ones who practice Wicca. You can Google it if you really want to learn about them, but I'm here to talk about the game. Personally, I was always more of a realist. I took my family's practices and beliefs with a grain of salt, though the stories behind it are fun and interesting. I love Greek mythology too, but it's not like I think Zeus is real, you know what I mean? The same was true for the Infinity Game until recently. Now my curiosity has peaked. Let me start by explaining what it is exactly. Most people don't understand they're actually standing at a locked door or what's on the other side. It's almost like Wizard of Oz deal in the sense that if you could find your way to the Mirror Master, he'll grant you a wish. But getting there is not an easy journey, and you'll want to choose your words carefully. To play, you need at least one other person, 2 standing mirrors, 5 black candles, a stick of chalk, warm clothing, and a red armband. Well, it can be any color, I just like red. The armband is the most important thing to remember. It's not required to get in, but you shouldn't leave without it. Once you have all the supplies, draw a pentagram on the floor with space for the mirrors in the center. Then put the lit candles on each point of the star. When everything is in place, the reflection will appear as an infinite hallway. Stand between the mirrors and focus only on the corridor. Soon, you'll notice a shadow far behind your reflection. Focus on that, letting the world around you fade. Do not look away. Don't even blink. Slowly begin to inch forward, but do not be afraid of bumping into the glass. Think of it as platform 9 3/4. You have to know it's going to work. When you feel a drastic temperature drop, you can look at your surroundings. However, if you are unable to enter, do not leave the game unattended. Remove the mirrors immediately. The things that live there can't be described as alive, but they are desperate. When you do feel the temperature change, you will officially be inside the Mirror World's lobby. Though I suppose it's more like a bridge. It's what connects the two places, but my family calls it the lobby. This is where you must proceed with extreme caution. The Mirror World is a backwards replica of ours. Not only does that mean left is right, it also means beautiful, thriving cities are dead and crumbling. While in the mirror world, you must be wary of your reflection. Its only goal is to take your place in the real world, meaning you will be trapped in this place forever. It cannot kill you, for that would mean killing itself. Instead, it'll attempt to trick you. Never, ever speak to it. I'm not sure what happens if you do. Wish I did, but I'm just repeating what I've heard. It'll be dressed like you, except its armband will be on the left. Whoever you have waiting in the real world will be responsible for ensuring it doesn't get out. Choose someone you trust. Only your reflection can take your place, but everything else you meet will try to kill you out of sheer spite or food. If you die in there, the mirror through which you entered will shatter. Make sure your friend is aware a shattered mirror indicates they should immediately remove the other one, because it's game over for you. Though unlikely, there are a few entities powerful enough to use this situation to their advantage. This is why you don't want to choose anyone who may be easily manipulated. My father was supposedly the only person to successfully return after seeing the Mirror Master. Growing up, I was told no one has ever met him, but when Dad died 2 months ago, I found his journal. My amazement grew with each page as he described his own experience with the Infinity game. His first entry is from 6 months after his first son was born. Sadly, John had a heart defect, and doctors said he wouldn't live to see his first birthday. Dad was aware of the game's dangers, but he didn't care. Not if it could save his son. I'm going to read what he wrote about his experience. If you decide to play, consider this fair warning. Even the winners can lose. From the Journal of Edward Pierce. I hoped to never open this journal again. I purchased a new book for the start of our new lives, but instead of writing on crisp, clean pages, I continue here, on the tear-stained memorial to the darkest 6 months of my life. I should have known better. Hope is for the foolish. I won the stupid game. We should all be far away from this place, beginning anew, not here. There is only hate and pain left in my heart. Everyone told me not to go, but I didn't have a choice. Each time someone said, "You can always have more children," my heart ached with fury and resentment. They knew nothing of our pain, of what it's like to have your chest feel both empty and full of lead at the same time. I was prepared to risk my own life, but not for this. Not to feel the joy of knowing my son would survive, only to have it ripped away again. I thought I would be different, that I was special. I guess we all see ourselves as the hero of our own stories. But fate is rarely kind enough to grant a happy ending. I hope that vile creature never barters another soul. I entered the mirror world easily, feeling the temperature drop as if exiting a heated room into an Arctic tundra. I always imagined a chill in the air, but this was cold. Cold enough to see my breath and freeze the sweat forming at my temples. Behind me was the mirror, and in it I saw Tammy. She appeared to be in shock, her mouth hung open as she waved. I probably wore the same look. It would have been funny under different circumstances. I think the strange hallway is an in-between place. Both sides are lined with identical white doors, and I didn't know which to choose. I couldn't see the end of the hall. It still appeared infinite. I tried the closest doors, but they were locked. There were no keyholes, just solid knobs. I continued down the corridor, feeling more nervous each time I looked back to see Tammy farther away. It was impossible to track the passage of time. Electronics won't work there. I don't know how long I walked before I heard the soft click of a door opening. When I turned back, Tammy and the mirror home were no longer in sight. Instead, I saw myself, the only discernible difference being his armband worn on the left. I know I should have been afraid, but I found it comforting. It was further proof the stories were true, that John had a real chance at surviving. I would have gladly traded my own life for his, but that's not how the game works. My reflection called to me. "Are you lost? You need to go this way." He indicated the open door from which he emerged. I knew not to respond. I remained silent as he tried again. "Hello? What's wrong? Are you deaf or just rude?" "Fine. I don't care if you want to spend eternity trying to open locked doors." He shrugged and began walking in Tammy's direction. I could not turn back. I had to trust my wife to tell the difference. My reflection would return when he failed to deceive her. I couldn't trust the path he recommended, but still wanted to see it. I walked back to the open door, keeping a healthy distance. Standing in the center of the hall, I tried to peer inside, but it was too dark. I wasn't even outside yet, and the pressure was already getting to me. Were the other doors all really locked? How long before something worse found me? It was then I thought to myself, why do they call this a game? Game implies there's a way to move forward, clues to follow. That's when I understood how literal the stories were. If everything is backwards, shouldn't I go to the door opposite the one indicated by my reflection? I reached for the other doorknob, holding my breath as I felt it turn beneath my hand. It opened effortlessly to reveal our kitchen, where Tammy and I had set the mirrors. The light was dim. Everything was reversed, filthy, and in a state of disrepair. Cabinet doors hung loosely on their hinges, and a swarm of flies surrounded the overturned garbage can that spilled rotten food all over the floor. Even worse, instead of finding my wife, I found a horrifying, twisted old woman seated at our small table. Her bald head had open sores, her back was hunched, her teeth and nails were yellow, and her red face was contorted with hatred. I was frozen with fear as her dead gaze bore into my soul. "What the hell do you think you're doing here?" she screamed, hands slamming down onto the table and spit flying from her mouth. I couldn't remember if it was against the rules to talk to other things besides your reflection, but I didn't want to risk it. I took a few steps to my left, hoping to reach the door before she could block my exit. "Don't you dare ignore me, you bastard!" the old woman croaked, her voice hoarse and raspy as she reached under the table, retrieving a long, metal cane. Thankfully, she was as slow as she looked. I ran around her, through the swinging door to the den. She was still cursing me as I continued out the front door. At the end of the driveway, I took in my surroundings. Back home, it was midnight, so it should have been noon there, but it was so overcast it seemed much later. The neighborhood was in ruins. The yards were dead, the houses boarded and abandoned. The bloated body of a mailman laid in the street, white envelopes blowing in the frigid wind. The cars were rusted with broken windows. Some were on blocks, their tires gone or slashed. Some hoods were propped open or missing entirely. It was a ghost town. I understand why our reflections are so desperate to trade places. Instinctively, I felt confident the old woman wouldn't follow me outside. Something gave me the idea her part of the game was to guard that kitchen door for when I needed to go home. I didn't stay to test the theory, but now can say with confidence that I was correct. There was nothing to tell me where to go next. The stories were all vague in that regard. From that point on, I was flying blind. The only thing I knew for certain was that it would get worse the farther I progressed. That's when I realized how desperately I needed a working vehicle for speed and protection. I resigned myself to look for a bicycle when I remembered the mechanic who lived on the next street over. Every weekend he would be in his driveway, restoring some old clunker. It was hardly more than a body and wheels last time I saw it. If everything is opposite, wouldn't that car be in working condition now? And yes, it was. It was a gorgeous blue Camaro that looked like it came straight from one of those classic car shows. That damn thing made me truly believe I could do it. But hope is dangerous, kids. No matter how simple something might seem, you have to remember nothing good ever comes for free. I was so excited by the sight of that pristine beauty, I forgot to be wary of danger. A strange creature I almost mistook for a dog placed itself between me and victory. It was of similar size and color to a German shepherd, but its mouth opened sideways to reveal extra rows of teeth, and its paws had eagle-like talons. I don't know if its eyes were located elsewhere or it just didn't have any, but the ears looked hard, almost like rounded horns. I couldn't discern a nose either, but I'm sure it had one. I could hear it sniffing the air. It gave me a headache to look too closely, like my brain was rejecting the very sight of it. My eyes frantically searched for anything to use as a weapon, but there was nothing nearby. My heart sank as I realized it would come down to a race I couldn't win. Stealing a last glance at my surroundings, I saw the only chance was to run for the house's door and hope it was unlocked. Otherwise, I would be eaten by a dog monster. But at least it would make for an interesting obituary. I tried to mentally prepare myself when a long, high-pitched whistle turned the creature's growls to whimpers. It wasn't pleasant to my ears either, but I enjoyed seeing its effect. The noise continued until the dog thing ran out of sight. At first, I was unable to locate the sound's source, but it wasn't long before my reflection walked into view, smiling proudly. He stopped several feet away and remained silent. This was confusing until I almost asked, but why? My mouth opened wide, froze, then suddenly closed. He hoped I would talk without thinking. Plus, if I died, he wouldn't be able to escape. Smart. In his own way, he's more terrifying than the old hag and the dog put together.
Uh-oh, almost had you that time. You might want to find yourself a weapon before you run into anything else. Hey, do you even know which way to go?
He spoke like we were best friends. I was too afraid to shake my head or even shrug. The mirror world seemed like the kind of place that thrived on loopholes. Instead, I stared at his feet, willing him to say a direction so I could go the opposite way.
Oh, you look lost. Do you need a map? I could draw one for you. Come on, just nod or something. I'm trying to help you.
When I didn't respond, he stomped his foot in frustration. To me, that was confirmation about the loopholes. Or maybe he could read my mind, or inherently knew what I was thinking because we're the same. Either way, I wasn't trying it.
Fine, be that way. I don't care if you want to live or not. Frankly, I would rather die than spend the rest of my life in this shithole. But it's a shame the kid has to die just because you won't ask for help.
He shrugged and began to walk away. Those words hit me like a freight train at the time, but now that the words carry the added weight of truth, I feel as if they will crush me completely. He probably knew it would end this way if I won. Sorry bastard. Controlling my temper as he left was one of the most difficult parts of that nightmare. So many times I wondered if punching him counted as communication. But John's life wasn't worth the risk. That's when I vowed to break every mirror I saw for the rest of my life. A vow I have thus far made good on, thank you very much. When he was well out of sight, I discovered my next obstacle would be to find keys. The car was locked, but the house was not. Knowing something bad would be inside, I took a large crowbar from the garage and crept through the back door, staying low. It entered into a kitchen much like my own, but somehow the smell was even more rancid. Something that looked like raw meat was all over the countertops with its own swarm of flies, and rats the size of groundhogs scurried across the floor. I didn't get a great look at those, but I'm pretty sure they had vampire fangs. At least they left me alone. A key hook by the door would have been nice, but I could never be so fortunate. Refocusing on John helped me choke down the rising vomit in my throat. This experience was nothing compared to the thought of losing him. Next, I made my way into a den with torn up leather furniture and moth-eaten curtains. The carpet was covered in stains I told myself was melted chocolate. From where I stood, the back of a recliner was directly in front of me with a couch and love seat on either side, all angled towards the broken television in the center. Small, dirty tables sat on each end of the sofas, and my heart skipped a beat when I saw car keys atop the one to the left of the recliner. Forgetting the fear, I reached down quickly, only to scream like a woman when a cold, skeletal hand shot out from the recliner, clutching my wrist. It had a grip of steel. For a moment, it felt as if my arm would break. I lashed out desperately with the crowbar, awkwardly swinging at it from over the chair's backside and making contact with whatever sat there. It was like hitting a rock, but the sound it made was dull and wet. Dark splatters of blood shot out, some of it onto me, but my wrist was finally freed from that vice-like grip. The instant it released me, my hand closed around the keys, and I ran for the car. It was pure luck the dog monster hadn't returned, because I didn't stop to look around before flying outside. As soon as the car door closed, I hit the lock button 3 times and performed a thorough inspection of the back seat. I've seen enough horror movies to know that's a step you never skip. Satisfied there were no unexpected passengers, I was ready to go. There was a horrific moment of fear the car still wouldn't start as I inserted the key, but it roared to life like it was brand new. Hell, it probably was. It really is just like King's Quest. Get a clue, find an item, solve a puzzle, escape danger, advance, and repeat all the way to the boss fight. Careful, Ed, your nerd is showing. Look at me. I made a joke. Never thought that would happen again. I went to the end of the driveway and hit the brakes, remembering I didn't know which way to go. In a game, when there's multiple paths, they usually all come out to the same place. Or one is a deadly trap. That was an unpleasant thought. Then it hit me. If I was playing a game where the goal was to cure a sick boy, where would the boss fight take place? A hospital, right? You would want the best doctor with the best equipment. I turned left towards the best hospital in the state. When John was born, we moved 3 hours away from our hometown to be near it. 15 minutes away was the closest residence we could find, which seemed really good at the time. But now it felt like hours. In fact, it probably took at least an hour given how slow I had to drive. I expected the roads to be in poor condition, but I could never have imagined the level of destruction I saw that day. Our normally smooth, paved streets were filled with large potholes, some big enough to get stuck in if I wasn't careful. The buildings were in various stages of demolition. Some were on fire, none looked to be inhabited, but I'm sure they were. The beautiful plants and trees that were once lined the medians were brown and dead. Instead of cute, furry squirrels, the trees were inhabited by hairless rodents that seemed more interested in eating each other than finding nuts and berries. I kept careful watch on my surroundings, worried something would come charging from a dark alley as I slowly steered around road hazards. Luckily, it only happened once, close to the halfway point. While preparing for another tight squeeze, I heard a scraping sound from behind. In the rearview mirror, I saw a deformed-looking man. He seemed younger with long, greasy hair and his skin was badly burned. In some places, it peeled down in flaps, revealing the bones and tissue beneath. The sound was from the steel bat he was dragging behind him, and one of those weird dog monsters tagged along like a pet. If the roads were decent, I could have outrun them easily, but I knew they would catch me if I had to continue puttering around all of the bad patches. So, I did the only thing I could think to do and slowed down even more, letting them get closer to an intact section of the road. I don't think the things living in the mirror world are capable of intelligent thought. They didn't even hesitate when I began reversing, nor did they make any attempt to move as I accelerated and ran them down. I aimed for the man, considering him the greater threat. He went under the car while the beast was only stunned and knocked to the side. I went forward and reversed over him once more, just to be sure. There was a moment I thought my game was over when I tried to go forward and the car seemed stuck on top of the man's corpse, but the wheels found traction again when the zombie dog threw itself into the bumper. The force of it was surprising. It was like being rear-ended by a U-Haul. I considered trying to run it down as well, but the little beast was no longer interested in me. Its master's body had become a gory pile of flesh and guts that the dog seemed to find delicious. So I let it eat in peace while I fled as fast as I dared. I made it to the hospital without any further attacks, parking in front of the main entrance. The state of it did not inspire confidence. It was in worse condition than anything I had seen yet. That's when I realized my terrible mistake. Everything was the opposite. The best hospital would be the worst, and our world's worst hospital would be the best. That should have been obvious from the start, but it's hard to think when everything is trying to kill you. I jumped back into my car and made my way to the free clinic on 3rd. If my theory was correct, that place would probably hold the cure for cancer. A flock of zombie birds attacked the car on Pearl Street. Most of them were the size of pigeons and kamikazed themselves into the windshield. Their leader, however, was nearly peacock-sized with the long, pointed beak of a pterodactyl. I wanted to swerve out of its way, but there was nowhere to go. The beak came through the glass, stopping inches before my face, leaving the rest of the windshield shattered but intact. The bird was riddled with bald spots and tiny bugs covered its skin. It thrashed about, struggling to free itself as blood poured from its fresh cuts. The more it struggled, the worse the windshield cracked, and the closer its beak came to reaching its prey. I grabbed my crowbar, jumped out of the car, and beat it to death. In my whole life, I had never killed anything larger than a bug, but now my body count was up to 3. The bird was harder to dispatch than Recliner Guy or Roadkill Dude, but given its condition, I considered it an act of kindness. What can I say? I'm an animal person. Prying it out of the windshield was no small task either. It was stuck in there good, and I had the added burden of making sure nothing else was coming at me. Once back in the car, I had to deal with the problem of navigating. You couldn't see jack through that windshield except for where the hole was, and that was nearly big enough. In the end, I was forced to stick my head out of the window in order to steer, and my speed was even further decreased. But the game was still on, so I couldn't complain too much. I knew I'd made the right decision the moment I entered the bad side of town. Well, our world's bad side. In this world, it was full of lavish manners. The clinic was immaculate and more than double its normal size. I parked on the curb and ran for the entrance. It was starting to get darker, but I didn't understand how. There should have been hours of daylight left. Then, once again, as if reading my mind, the jackass was back.
Gosh, are you just now getting here? You better hurry. Time's running out fast.
He was teasing me. I had never heard of a time limit but ached to taunt him with his obvious failures to deceive Tammy. If he was back to screw with me, it meant he couldn't fool her, and the thought filled me with strength. If Tammy could hold down the fort, I could do this. Turning my back on him, I walked inside, and he followed.
Oh, you know that, right? That when it gets dark, the hourglass stands empty? Well, not literally, but I like the expression. Anyway, I just wanted to check, because it seems like most people from your world are ignorant to that detail.
The more I considered it, the more it made sense. Many games do have time limits, and the thought of being in that place after dark did have a sort of game over feel to it. Fortunately, I couldn't ask questions or stand around wondering. I thought he would leave again, but he continued to follow me close behind.
Don't mind me. I just want to see the big climax. Your sweetie was too smart. There's no point chatting with her anymore.
I didn't give him the satisfaction of looking back. Seeing a map of the hospital, I stopped to study the layout. Of course, I needed the top floor. It couldn't be right here on the ground floor, no, heaven forbid. I walked to the elevator and noticed my reflection was suddenly gone. The doors chimed and slid open. I put one foot inside, then pulled it out quickly. Did I really want to walk into a metal box in a bizarro world where there is no one to help if I get trapped inside? I looked around and saw a nice, open stairway. The elevator closed behind me as I made my way to the stairs, holding onto the rail all the way up. Making it that far only to die in a fall would just be insulting. And exactly my luck. I'm glad I did too, because my reflection jumped out and screamed, "Boo!" the moment I reached the top. Then he laughed maniacally when I stumbled back a step. My fantasy evolved from punching my reflection to murdering him. If he dies, would I die? I'll have to look into that one day. If not, it might be worth a trip back. I held my crowbar at the ready as I passed him. It felt glued to my hand after so much time. I hadn't actually let go of it since my run-in with the bird, and I intended to haul it all the way home. My reflection resumed tailing me, even closer now, getting desperate, I'm sure. When I reached the reception desk for the children's ward, he took a seat in the waiting room. When he saw me watching, he gave me 2 thumbs up and a wink.
You got this, dude. I'm rooting for you.
More confused than ever, I went through the double doors in search of the doctor, or Mirror Master, I guess. Ugh, terrible name. They had no imagination back in the day. I would have named him Satan's Little Helper. Okay, fine, that's not much better, and I basically ripped it off from The Simpsons, but it is better. He wasn't hard to find. I stood in a dim hallway and bright lights shone under the swinging doors ahead. My heart thumped like a charging elephant with every step. When I walked inside, the light was so bright I had to shield my eyes. Then, with the snap of someone's fingers, they faded to normal indoor lighting. The only person in the room was the doctor I see on TV, the one on the ridiculous commercial with that annoyingly catchy tune. I can't remember the name. You know, the really fat, bald guy with glasses. It's not important. It wasn't how he really looked anyway. It threw me off though, and the surprise must have shown on my face.
Ah, not what you were expecting. Me either. Who is this anyway?
The doctor asked, examining his own appearance. You don't know who you are? I stammered.
Of course I know who I am, boy. I appear however one's mind is comfortable seeing me. But it's usually not... this.
He cringed. What? Wait. How could... I tried to ask.
No. You aren't here for magic lessons, and I don't give them anyway. You came here because you want something desperately enough to sell your soul for it. Just my labor fee, won't even notice it's gone, and I find that utterly delicious. So tell me, what do you want?
You mean, I just tell you to... and you do it? I don't have to... I don't know, solve a riddle or fight one of those zombie things? I couldn't believe it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was finding me too easy for you? Were my pets not vicious enough? Well, no worries there. You'll love what's coming next. The longer you are here, the darker it gets and the more pets you're likely to see. Most of them are nocturnal, but they'll be awake and ready for breakfast any moment now.
I could only stand there, horrified and speechless.
Come now, what's your wish? Weren't you listening? You probably should pick up the pace.
His eyes held a dangerous twinkle, and he gave me a salesman's fake smile. His teeth were no longer the normal teeth of the TV doctor, but sharp, brown fangs. My son is dying. I want you to cure him. I tried to keep my voice steady.
Ah, that's a tricky one. Money, love, fame, those things are easy. Murder is the easiest, but life, that is very tricky indeed. It disrupts nature's balance.
Please, I'll do anything, I begged.
Well, there is one way it could work. If you're sure. There's no turning back, you know.
He paused, stretching the suspense until I vigorously shook my head in agreement.
Oh, very good then.
With a snap of his fingers, a scroll appeared in one hand and a pen in the other. It was the kind of pen you dip into ink, but I'd never saw one before that moment.
Sign here, please.
One flick of the wrist and the long scroll opened, falling to the floor between us. I picked up the bottom end, eyes scrolling over the millions of tiny, printed words jammed together on the paper. At the very end was a "sign here" line.
If I sign this, it'll cure my baby. He will be in and stay in perfect health.
I would not see my son cured of one sickness, only to fall ill from another the following week.
Absolutely. In fact, with this contract, your boy will be immune to all diseases and disorders. Even the deadliest poison won't affect the little tyke,
he assured. My heart sang at the words. There was no price I wouldn't have happily paid, no life I wouldn't have traded. I reached for the pen, and with a stab too fast for my eyes to see, the doctor pricked my finger. A large drop of blood fell onto the paper, and with another snap, the contract vanished.
It's been a pleasure doing business, my boy. By the way, to cure your son, I borrowed half of his mother's remaining lifespan to restore balance. All very standard. Toodles!
Just like that, the doctor disappeared with a gleaming wink. I hope I never see his wretched face again. His parting words made my blood run cold, but I couldn't stop to think about them right then. Terrified of what would soon be chasing me, I ran back towards the waiting room area. My reflection was waiting for me at the double doors, wearing a malicious grin.
You're not going anywhere. You don't know what this place is really like. Why should you get the good world? I'd rather we die here together.
I shoved on the doors with all my strength, but he must have locked them somehow. Fueled with adrenaline, I smashed the glass window to the reception counter with my crowbar. My arms and legs were getting cut through, but there was no time to worry about the blood loss. I flew over the counter, ignoring the shocked look of my reflection. As I made my way down the stairs, I saw several more zombie people coming out of various rooms. I almost didn't make it back to the ground floor when a kid with no legs managed to grab my ankle. The only thing that saved me was the crowbar catching the rail as I tumbled. When I finally made it to the entrance, I saw the Camaro was turned onto its side and several more zombies and dog things were waiting close by. Remembering the hospital map, I decided to take a chance on the ambulance bay. I was betting the real clinic owned at least one junked out ambulance that would run in this world. If they didn't, I would have died right there. Not even someone with a machine gun could have survived on those streets now. I cried with relief when I saw it. There was one ambulance that appeared in working condition, and I was lucky enough for the keys to be inside. I still checked in the back to make sure it was empty, but that almost got me killed too. I slammed the doors just in time to avoid one of the dogs lunging for my throat. The ambulance rocked side to side from things trying to get in as I strapped myself into the driver's seat. It was my first time driving anything bigger than a car, so it would have been a bumpy ride even under normal circumstances. Each time I slowed to steer around a pothole, hideous creatures converged on me. There were several times I thought the ambulance would finally tip over, but the worst came when I was almost back in my neighborhood. There was a roar of another engine revving, followed by a violent collision into my bumper. I went off-road, missing a huge crater by inches. Regaining control of the rig was nothing short of a miracle, and I was able to get back on the road just as the truck driven by my reflection began accelerating once more. As with all my other close calls, I did something desperate. I waited for him to get right behind me, almost touching, and punched the gas to the floor. As I hoped, he too sped up, trying to position himself for a pit maneuver. At the last possible second, I closed my eyes and swerved away, once again coming dangerously close to tipping over. The bastard failed to react in time. There was a delightful metal crushing sound, and I turned to see his truck, nose down in a large hole, tailgate lifted high into the air. My house was surrounded by hideous creatures. I couldn't tell what most of the warped things were supposed to be. Some of them had several limbs, or maybe appendages is a better word, while some had none. One looked like a huge floating eyeball, and another looked like a two-headed snake.
Possibly the most disturbing was something that looked like a rhinoceros but stood on its hind legs and was covered in thick, oily brown fur. I didn't see a way inside. I couldn't believe I came all this way just to lose at the finish line. At the very least, I wanted to kill as many of those things as possible before I died. That's when a final, patently desperate plan occurred to me. I reversed to position myself for a straight shot through our den. The house was now termite infested anyway. Even if we didn't have the huge windows, I'm sure the walls would have been weak enough to drive through. It felt like I was operating a tank as two of the creatures fell beneath the wheels. The ambulance was a much smoother weapon compared to the Camaro. It was a strange sight as the walls crumbled around me, and the sound was terrible. But it didn't stop until the ambulance finally stalled. I climbed out of the passenger window and dove through the kitchen door without looking to see what followed. My eyes searched for the old woman, but she saw me first. Pain blossomed behind my eyes as something struck me over the head. I fell to the ground, dazed, but managed to keep a grip on the crowbar. Feigning unconsciousness, I waited for the hag to grab one of my ankles. Then I sat up, swinging wildly, and enjoyed the now familiar wet smack of contact. Her thick, almost black blood sprayed, and I wasted no time getting to my feet. More creatures burst into the room as I rushed through the exit, hoping it locked behind me. I held my breath as the door shook furiously, but nothing was able to follow. Breathing a sigh of relief, the pain from my injuries began to set in. I had several deep gashes on my arms and legs, and my head was bleeding freely, and my wrist was swelling to the size of a grapefruit. Grateful to still have the armband, I began making my way to the mirror entrance. After only a few steps, there was a soft click of another door behind me.
I hope you didn't expect to be rid of me that easily.
My reflection's voice no longer sounded like my own. It was deeper, distorted. I turned to see he now had the same ghoulish zombie appearance as those other things. Did he always look that way? Did I only see me because that's what I expected? Like the doctor? I hope someone solves the mysteries of that place one day. There are still so many unanswered questions. I ran for my life, focused on thoughts of holding my healthy baby. My reflection's footsteps were gaining as he screamed at me.
Have you figured it out yet? Wait up, I'll explain it to you. If you divide the lifespan in half, it means they have the same amount of time to live. Do you get it? Wait up, brother!
He cackled an evil, dark laugh. It sounded unnatural in his new voice. Humans should not be able to make the sounds that were coming from his throat. I was so focused on the light at the end of the corridor, I didn't understand what he was telling me. I heard him gaining on me with every step, but couldn't spare another look back. His deranged laughter followed me all the way home. When Tammy saw me, her eyes lit up with relief, then fear, and finally anger as she saw my appearance and that of the thing chasing me. She stepped away from the mirror, allowing me to exit. I flew through it like an Olympic diver. The second I was out, I turned to see my monster reflection collide into the glass, bouncing off like rubber. Now that I had returned, the doorway was closed. Before he could rise, Tammy shattered the glass. Caught in the moment, she also shattered the second one. She could have simply blown out the candles and erased the pentagram, but I liked where her head was at. It wasn't until several hours later, after I explained everything to my wife, that we understood what my reflection was trying to tell me. If half of Tammy's life went to John, that meant they had an equal amount of time to live. So they would die at the same time. I was devastated. I couldn't imagine losing both at once. But we were so young. I thought we would have so many more years together. I never dreamed. I couldn't believe. Tammy and John passed away only 3 weeks later. John was crying in the night, so Tammy took the baby for a drive. It always calmed John. And it was only a few times around the block.
but this time a drunk driver ran a stop sign at nearly 70 miles an hour. The other guy walked away with a mild concussion and a broken nose, while my family was destroyed. You see, it was all for nothing. I was going to lose them no matter what. I traded my soul for nothing. I'm not even sure what it means to lose one's soul, but I'm sure it's something terrible. Oh, that's the end of Dad's entry. He never wrote another word about the Infinity game. At least none that I could find. He met my mother 4 years later and eventually stopped smashing mirrors. It took a while for him to have a normal life again, but I always felt like we were a happy family. He was a terrific dad. I had no idea such terrible things were in his past. Mom didn't know the full story either, only that he had a wife and baby killed in a wreck before she met him. I can't blame Dad for not wanting to tell me the truth about the Infinity game. He knows how much I love a good puzzle. While no, I don't think I'll visit the mirror world anytime soon, it would be nice to learn more about it. Like he says, there's still so much we don't know. And personally, I have a long list of questions. Besides, it sounds fine if you don't make a wish, right? Like, it probably wouldn't hurt to just take a quick look around. Well, I'll just leave this here for now in case anyone else has a story to share. I'd love to collect more data. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this evening's production on Dusklight Radio, hosted by yours truly, Everett J. Blackwell. This evening's tale of strange games and stranger realities was crafted exclusively by PageTurner. Page has produced some of the most scintillating tales on Dusklight Radio, including The Demon Circus and Killers for Sale. We thank you so much for trusting us to bring your works to life. I want to take a moment to thank all of our patrons for making this possible. If you want to sign up, it's as little as $1 a month and you get exclusive content, early access videos and stories, updates, and more. But times are tough and we will always be grateful for support no matter what form it comes in. Financial, spiritual, corporeal, maniacal, whatever you want. It really helps us out. A shout out collectively to all of the Sturgeonite faithfuls. And next, I want to thank all of our Purple Crayon Eaters. Feeny Von Karma, Max, Fi, Amara, Ashabel, Candyman Gloving, Mike, Alex, Gail, Echo Kane, Ian Hancocks, and Okami-san. Then our janitors, Alex Nunez, Arkham Cookie, Amy, Adrian R., Heather Cayley, Scott, Death31, Sabine Eclipse, Joy Flint Healy, Dux, Shane Lewis, and Allie. Our Nightmare Detectives, Fox Clifford and Melanie Schaefer. Our Void Walkers, Professor Creepypasta, Rat Squatch, and Josh Woods. And lastly, our Blackwell family. Great Uncle Ven Blackwell with his forbidden esoteric knowledge. Delera Blackwell, our resident doctor and plague, pestilence, and poultry dispenser. Izzy Blackwell, our resident bug devourer. TJ Blackwell, who seems hell-bent on stealing the spot of our janitor supremo and his purple crayon wife. Adela Blackwell's fire-bending and illusions. Ethan Blackwell, abyssal fisher and repo lord. Jackal Blackwell, head chef and mystery meat purveyor. Clue Blackwell, the chrysalis of unknowable horrors. Tabitha Blackwell, void water baron and forever frenemy to our last entrant, Papa Kyle Blackwell. From his tower of bones, broth, and spines, alongside the Hobo Queen, preparing for the outer gods to recognize his claim. We love and fear you, Papa, and we love and fear all of you Blackwell family members. We thank you humbly for your patronage and look to see you bright and early for Dusklight orientation, purple crayons, and existential dread will be provided. And one last time, listeners,
Close your eyes and breathe with me. Remember, no matter how bad things are, how cruel people can be, and how heavy your shoulders may feel with the weight of the world bearing down on them, Dusklight will always be here to lift the load and provide you with some respite. Drink some pink lemonade Snapple. Watch a video on lost civilizations or derelict theme parks, and sleep on the cool side of the pillow with the window open and the stars twinkling down on you. Start and end each day with kindness in your heart. You matter, you are loved, and every day is another chance. I'll see you again when the sun sets and dusk enters the station.